Welcome to the Cuick 10 podcast, brought to you by Cuick Trac, focusing on all things FedCon and cyber defense from different perspectives and different personalities, all in 10-ish minutes. Here's your host, Derek White.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Cuick 10 podcast. I am your host, Derek White from Beryllium and Cuick Trac. Today, joined here live and in person from Brad Taylor. Thank you for spending some time with me. Tell us a little bit about who you are and who you work for.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks for inviting me. Brad Taylor, work with Foregenix Federal. We are a CMMC Assessors. We also do other modalities, PCI, SWIFT, HIPAA, a whole bunch of NIST documentations and all that stuff too. So like I said, we're in all sorts of cybersecurity. We are assessors for that. And I just want to sit down with y'all today, just go over an assessment that we just went through, trying to give some pointers and what to expect.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's we're live and in person at an event here specific to CMMC and the ecosystem. So lots of people, lots of energy. This is a great topic because the assessments are happening. They will obviously continue to happen. There's lots of things to learn. But you're right. This is what people we'll call it fear or trying to work towards, but they get hurt, and as they should. Assessments, audits, no one likes to go through those.
Correct.
You rock a vest really well, so you guys must do an amazing job on this. So that's awesome. Yeah. So walk us through from you just finished one up like you said. Talk about it. I mean, let people know what that's like.
So when you first start off your assessment, usually don't have like a lead CCA. They're going to end up going through basically a no-go or go. And so what you're going to do is you're going to upload some of the evidence that we need to look at to verify, like, hey, you are ready. Mm-hmm. That's a perfect step because if you're not quite ready, talk to the assessor. So that way they can figure out, okay, you might need this type of evidence come in before you start the assessment. Because you got to remember, once you start the assessment, you can't do any consultant. Mm-hmm. So it has to be already done. Then we'll end up going, so you go through the go phase, you'll go into the uploading all your evidence basically into your assessor's portal or into your own portal if you're giving them access into it. Those assessors will then review all that evidence and then we'll schedule interviews. Well, if the evidence is sound and it meets the control of it, your interview is going to be a little bit shorter. One of our tactics that we like to use for Foregenix Federal is an open conversation. And so like if I'm going to talk about a control, I'm going to ask you, hey, just give me a high level overview from birth to grave on your full program of like access control. So we're not going to drill into every single one of them because just through the normal dialogue, just having a conversation, we're going to cover all of those. So it cuts the time down by half. So a lot of stuff's easier to come out. It's more friendly. It's not like you're being held at gunpoint per se by the assessor. Yep. And so it makes it a lot easier for our clients. Our clients love it. They usually come back to us for their annual assessments also because they like that style.
Yeah. So I'll put my C3PO cap on because we are not one and will never be one, but this is a good question from your side. So you guys want to see obviously readiness, and you want to see efficiency.
Correct.
Right. So that's the goal. So with this last one that you just did, without obviously sharing anything you can't share, where were you maybe pleasantly surprised and happy to see that there was a moment where you're like, okay, this should not take us as long as maybe you would with some others who maybe aren't as efficient? Yeah.
So for that one there, the inherited list. And so as an OSC, you're going to have, if it's inherited, if it's not inherited, if it's a shared inheritance, provide as much detail as possible in there. Explain what's being inherited, what's being shared, because if that's fully documented, it makes the assessment a breeze. Because at that point, we know who's responsible for what. Mm-hmm. If it is a shared, we know where to look at what you're doing instead of what your cloud service provider is doing for you. Yep. And then all your documentation, having those updated and current makes a world of difference.
So then, follow-up question to that then, wearing that same hat. Where would you put this OSC on a scale of 1 to 10 on the relationship with their providers and the preparing prior to the assessment compared to, say, what you would say maybe the norm right now in the space?
So with the assessor, with the company we just assessed, I would, from a scale of 1 to 10 being due diligence with their providers, I'd put them at an 8. They were a little bit more aggressive, making sure that they had a CRM, making sure they had the FedRAMP moderate IDs and all that stuff. So that way we could have it. Most other assessors that we go to be honest, they're right between a 5 and 6. Most of the time, it's just little things like, hey, you're missing a policy on this, or you need this policy doesn't align with your SSP. That's another thing we're seeing in a few places also is that SSB will dictate one thing, but then it points to a policy. The policy is a little different. So just doing due diligence and aligning your policies with your SSB.
How about your guys' preference when you see traceability down to where things are and how it's organized? What do you really like to see, whether it's a tool or is it internal through like a SharePoint thing? Yeah. Where do you see that efficiency being built into the readiness of documents and evidence?
So you have a few companies that are out here that do GRC tools. There are some other ones that have tiled and all that. Honestly, as an assessor, it's whatever's comfortable for the client. Because if I say, hey, let's do a GRC tool, if you're not comfortable with it, then when we sit down and have an assessment, you're going to fumble through it. It's going to be a little bit harder. It's going to make stuff look a little bit worse. So it's whatever the client's actually comfortable with. But definitely, if you have a policy that has like paragraph 2, page 3, and it's going to cover like AC 13.6, yeah, put that in there. So that way when we're looking, oh, cool, I can go straight to that document. I can read that paragraph and I'll know if it conforms to it or not. And so that does help out a lot, but there is no real solution out there. Just whatever is comfortable for the client.
I like that. So first off, you did not know what I was going to ask.
No.
Okay? So that sounded like a softball question because So I thank you because that's great. Then time wise, I mean, I know there's a lot of people throwing different numbers out there. How long did this assessment take? Would you say from? Then again, could it have gone faster? Could it have gone slower? What was the speed of this one?
So with this assessment, once we got past the go, no go, and we're actually doing the assessment, it took us roughly a day and a half, almost 2 days. Reason it went so fast is, like I said, everything was well documented. The inheritance had a lot of information of what was being shared, how it was being shared. So it made it go a lot faster. And then with the assessment, we previewed every document the week before. And so we do that during our own time. It's not really so much on the client side because they're not going to sit there and watch us. But we do it during our own time, and the document was sound. And so when we jumped into the interviews, it was literally just running through them as quickly as possible because everything was documented. Everything was there. In the interview, people that they brought in for the interview, everybody was there. So we didn't have to wait for someone to come join. So everybody was there to help out. The client that really was pushing heavily, they're real cybersecurity focused, less ops focused. They want to make sure everything's secure. So that does help out also. And it is a culture change. But once you start establishing that culture, it'll start to leak over and it'll actually take root and it'll be the next year gets easier. The next year gets easier. Just a little bit of touch maintenance here and there.
God, that's comforting to hear because we hear throughout this ecosystem I like this, some of the horror stories that are out there on that. So I'm imagining then when you do have initial discussions with an OSC to engage, become their C3PAO, that's the kind of stuff you can let them know about so that when that day comes, there's no surprises and you can make it more efficient and essentially scope the work so it doesn't have to cost as much. Be more, right? Okay, so that's perfect. That is not being talked about enough in my opinion because we don't, I mean, to be fair, there's probably not a ton of examples yet. There's 100 and some certifications that have happened and I don't think everyone's going to go out and tell the world about the ones that didn't go well. But there is lessons to be learned from the good and the bad. So that makes me feel so much better.
It does help us as an assessor that we have so many different modalities because we can run into an issue with the client and another modality might cover it that they're already doing. Take, for instance, PCI. PCI has a lot of stuff that are requirements that actually will cover some of the CMMC Level 2 requirements. So if they're already performing those steps, it's just asking the questions like, hey, you're covering this in PCI. Do you still have that evidence that's for these systems that are in scope? A lot of times they do.
Yeah.
So,
and that's, the multiple framework thing is great. We just had a guest on here a little bit ago that it was talking about the data types, right? CMMC can be used as, say, a strategy for cybersecurity, and PCI does it. HIPAA. I mean, their principles are all essentially the same, right? It's data that's sensitive that not everybody should have access to, and you got to figure that out. And someone's going to come ask you about it someday, and you kind of want to have the answers to that. Otherwise, it's going to be a bad day. Nobody wants to have bad days, right?
Basically.
Oh, that's good. Well, Brad, thank you for spending time and stepping aside. So I really appreciate that. You're live in person, which is much more fun than doing this over a computer. Where do people go? Where do you want to send the watchers and listeners to learn more about what you guys do?
So for us, if you go out to Foregenix.com, that's our main website that we go to. There's a contact link on there. So if you need any help with CMMC or have any questions or anything, like I said, we can help out if we're not going to assess you. just reach out to us, let us know. We won't be able to assess you on that.
Sure.
But if you are wanting us to assess you, by all means, reach out to us. We'll walk you through the process of what we do. Try to make it streamlined as easy as possible. The worst thing that we don't like is I don't like my clients freaking out. I don't like them sitting in the hot chair and they're sweating. I'm like, I don't know what to do. Calm down. We'll get through this. We're here to help you as much as possible in certain limits.
Yeah.
So
no, and that's a good way to say that, because I think everybody gravitates to the negative. Everyone's heard of a failed DIBCAC assessment or this surprise or this, and then people, find Jesus or whatever. And it's like, you don't necessarily want to be in that. No, that's not good. Good auditors, good auditing firms and assessors do not want that scenario. So thanks for highlighting that, spending time on that. We'll have you on again for sure. And we'll see where the world's evolved with assessments from a C3PO perspective. For those watching, listening, if you're on your favorite podcast platform, make sure to subscribe, follow. You can go to our website and find all the podcasts. You can go on YouTube and watch them. It's a huge knowledge base. We have people like Brad on who can provide different perspective, different ways of talking about different parts of the ecosystem. So really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to this episode, and make sure to subscribe to the Cuick 10 podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and check us out on YouTube as well. For more information about Cuick Trac, visit our website at www.cuicktrac.com. That's CUICKTRAC.com.